Assalamu alaikum. Today I want to talk about the effect of living in constant uncertainty and addiction and the impact a chemical called dopamine has on that. The statistics are very clear. In Australia, 1 out of 4 people have either depression or anxiety. Out of those 4 people, 2.5 out of those 4 people at one point will have either experienced anxiety or depression. Dopamine is the main chemical that we need to understand in order to understand the mental health impact that either uncertainty or addiction has on our brains. So, what is this chemical dopamine? Dopamine is our motivating chemical. Our brain produces it when we are trying to either chase something or are in the process of obtaining it. The moment we obtain it, then our brain produces a chemical called serotonin. Now, an example would be easier to understand with that. If you're trying to get a good meal, or if you are in the process of doing a bet, or in the process of basically trying to chase something, dopamine will be produced. Once you've had that drink or you've done the bet, then serotonin will be produced in your brain. But I think an example would be easier to understand this. So think of if you are having, let's say, if you're having a drink. The moment you have that first drink, your brain is going to produce dopamine. Now, when you have that drink, you produce dopamine and you produce a chemical called delta force B, which is basically a threshold. So for the first drink, it'll be set over here. For the second drink, it goes higher. The more you drink, the higher that threshold becomes. Now, when you're not drinking, your brain is going to tell you want to drink because you're not producing the dopamine anymore, and you need to produce dopamine in order to get to that threshold again or even higher. Now, once that threshold becomes too high, or the delta force B chemical as it's called, you're addicted. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is that addiction causes stress, and stress causes addiction. And the more dopamine you produce, the more you get addicted, the easier it will be for you to get stressed. And when you are stressed, the easier it will be for you to get addicted. Now, this high frequency behavior now more than ever is a bit worrying, because if you think back 20 years ago, it would have been difficult to let's say, do 300 bets in a day, or meet and socialize with 2,000 people and get their approval or get them to, for example, like you do in social media when you get a like. Now, with the devices we have today, with your own device that's in your pocket, you can mimic something similar to that. You can place that many bets in one day, or you can get that many likes in one day, or basically what mimics in those devices, you're able to achieve the same state. So what that means is that for a generation today who's never known a life without those devices, it's very hard for them not to be addicted to one form or another. Now, how do you know you're addicted? Another example for this. If I asked you not to eat broccoli forever, 98% of you could do that pretty easily, because I'm guessing you're not addicted to broccoli. But if I asked you not to go onto social media, as an example, most of you would struggle to do that. And if you do struggle, you're either on your way to getting addicted or you are addicted. If I asked you not to eat a certain food, like a sugary food, for example, like ice cream, some of us would struggle with that. And if you did, you're on your way to getting addicted, or you're already addicted to sugar. And the same applies for gambling, for alcohol, for smoking, any of those addictive things. Now, too much dopamine produced in an uncertain environment results in this. Another thing to remember is that if you're living in an uncertain environment, or uncertainty is affecting you, it, according to research, it has the same impact as what addiction has on you. So if you're worried constantly about the uncertainty of your job, or the uncertainty of the relationship, or uncertainty of where your next meal is going to come from, that uncertainty will be crippling for you, and it will have the same effect on your brain as what addiction will. Now, the key to undoing the damage of addiction involves resetting what I called before the delta Fosby switch, which is your threshold. This can be done, but it takes a lot of effort and time to do it. I'll give you an analogy to understand it. If you go into a house where a lot of curry is cooked, for example, the moment you step into that house, you will smell that curry. You'll notice it. If you stay in that house, you'll get used to that smell. Now, if you walk away from 10 minutes from that house and you come back into that house again, you'll smell the curry again. That's how our delta Fosby switch works. It basically involves resetting that switch in order to beat the addictive behavior. How you do that is you replace the addictive behavior or substances with value-adding behaviors, something that you're passionate about. You also try and remove as much uncertainty, as stress as possible from your life. Now, this doesn't take 10 minutes, it takes weeks or months to achieve. And what I will do in future videos is to look at some of the common addictions that plague us as a society, and what steps you can do in order to overcome that addiction and uncertainty. Now, some of the positive changes that you'll notice if you are able to do this, you'll have more time, your health will be better, you will be able to spend more time with your family, your loved ones will be grateful for it. So there's a lot of benefits to be had in order to free yourself from that. For me personally, it's not addiction that I've struggled with in the last few years, but it was uncertainty. And I can tell you that for me personally, when I did face that uncertainty, reading the Quran helped me immensely on focusing on something positive, talking to God, putting my trust in Him, being thankful to Him, helping others, and a lot of other positive things that I read in the Quran really helped me deal with the uncertainty that I faced. But obviously you've got to do what works best for you. And that's what I'm going to be looking at in the future videos, in terms of looking at some common addictions and uncertainty, and what are some of specific steps you can take in order to overcome that and try and free yourself from that. Thank you for your time. Assalamu alaikum.